I am here with Neal Sherman. Neal, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Honored to be here.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself and about TAGeX.
So TAGeX has been around for 4 decades. We manage facilities and equipment that are in the flux of change. So whether people are opening, remodeling, closing, we manage all those headaches related to it. And the closing part has yielded over time the growth of the largest aftermarket place of new surplus and used equipment called restaurantequipment.bit. It's the largest auction platform in the industry. So we help people on the headaches of change.
How did you get into this?
Yeah, great question. It wasn't intentional. I didn't sit in second grade in upstate New York thinking, why don't I help people get rid of equipment in the aftermarket? So we originally, my background was in brand management. We managed kiosks in the supermarket in the early days of prepared foods, soup bars, salad bars, frozen yogurt kiosks. And every time we'd show up, we'd get asked to liquidate whatever was there. And at first the reaction was, hey, look, I'm no Sanford & Son. I'm a marketing guy. And not everybody these days know who Sanford & Son is, but you laugh, so you remember.
I know
right?
exactly who's.
So we started as a courtesy selling these surplus pieces of equipment in the aftermarket, realized they still had a long life to them, and brought back the proceeds, to which the retailer was like, no one's ever given us money for that junk before. Can you help us in other situations? And it turned out we were a lot better at that than we were at food, and it expanded. And now, some 40 years later, we have hubs around the country, and 50,000 registrants every day and 1 million views a day, and it's grown from there.
Did you have an old junky pickup truck that you picked everything up with, or?
Coincidentally, my first vehicle was an old pickup truck. My dad was a Napa Auto Parts guy, so he wanted to build character by having me repair this old pickup truck, but since then have not had one, no.
Oh, all right, really good. So how's business right now?
So needless to say, there's a lot of chaos going on in the world, in the broader economy, and certainly in our sector that we care about so much, the restaurant and food space. It's incredibly vibrant. It's incredibly busy. There's a lot of people that realize the chaos of competition, the chaos of tariff policy, the chaos of everybody getting into prepared foods from supermarkets and C-stores. There's just a lot of change going on. Plus the pressure on labor, as you know, and you write about so often, so eloquently. People looking for automated solutions for equipment, which renders the conventional equipment obsolete and need to get rid of. So a lot of chaos.
So you actually, you don't always deal with just closed restaurants. So I know you deal with that quite a bit. You'll go and pick up the equipment they decide to get rid of.
Correct. In the normal transition of, chef comes in, wants a new concept, gets rid of the existing equipment. So we do work for everybody, not just restaurants, but, supermarkets, C-stores, Wegmans, Disney, Darden, Culinary Institute of America, 41 of the top restaurant chains in America, in their normal course of business. So.
Did the closures last year, did that drive a lot of business last year? Or?
Yeah, we closed over 400 restaurants in the U.S. last year, including, as you know, over 100 Red Lobsters, Rubio's, Tijuana Flats, BurgerFi, but also people that weren't in distress, that were pruning unproductive or locations that didn't fit, like Shake Shack, the Darden system, those kinds of locations that have a need for constant change.
Yeah. So if there is, you mentioned the shift to automation. Is there still demand for that old equipment right now?
Oh yeah. Think about it this way, that the independent market is always opportunistic, whether it's an ethnic independent location or whether it's a food service operator that operates a cafeteria, in a business center. There's always demand in the aftermarket. So, in fact, some people prefer the older equipment because it's made with sturdier stainless and it's a more, reliable mechanical operation.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's, the chef wants the 20-year-old Hobart mixer instead of the current one. So.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus it's cheaper.
Right. They don't make them like they used to.
They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah. Do you anticipate a continued hefty supply? We're seeing, as you mentioned, the industry is at a really, really difficult time. And, if you look at sales last year, sales basically underperformed expectations. They underperformed, broadly speaking, they underperformed inflation, everything. And that is continuing this year. Do you expect these closures to continue happening this year?
Yeah, I think you and I have always talked about there's so many options in which to get food, right? So it used to be a C-store, used to be called a gas station. Now you have highly sophisticated C-stores that have great food service operators. I think the combination of labor pressure and automation is going to render that obsolete. I think that the over competition, pricing of commodities, I mean, these are all the things you write about on a regular basis to keep the industry aware of what's going on. I think that the increase of pricing at the casual dining level is going to cause a lot of chaos and change and closures. I see nothing but continued pruning, if you will, of certain less than optimal operators.
Really? Yeah. Then the industry also has financial challenges and things like that, and that will continue to put some pressure on a lot of operators going forward over the course of the year.
Right.
I think it's, and I, to be perfectly honest, am probably as pessimistic as I've been for 5 years.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So harking back to the kind of
Pandemic.
initial pandemic days.
Right. And the pandemic I thought was temporary. And the concern that I have is a lot of things going on are going to be long lasting.
Right.
And does that, I'm no economist, but.
No, but you have your hand on the pulse of the industry. But look at it this way, if somebody can, my brother who's not in the food industry said he and his wife went out for a lunch, in a town, basic casual dining place in Chicago. And, it was costing him $80 for 2 salads and, no drinks. This is lunch. 2 salads and salmon and chicken to put on it. You got to call a play. Do you go home and eat, right? And where, as time goes on, especially with the cost of labor and everything else and the scarcity and higher cost of commodities, it's a big issue.
Right.
So.
And yeah, the thing is, like you mentioned that, like I have friends that would send me receipts. Like they send me receipts of their night out. Like they went.
They don't want you to pay, do they?
No.
They don't want you to pay.
No, some of them probably do, but
Yeah.
they would send me receipts on how much this costs, and then it would be followed by a complaint because my friends now know what I do for a living, and they're exceptionally concerned about that. And you had this massive concern in 2024 about prices, and it pulled down sales at a lot of different sectors, and then you're adding potentially more cost pressures on the restaurant industry heading forward, and with tariffs and and then continued labor pressures, which are not going away. What are operators going to do? They couldn't raise prices fast enough. Like could not raise prices fast enough to match their higher costs.
Well, when you think about it, you talk about the tariffs alone. So the equipment business, which is where we operate, facilities and equipment, the equipment business, the industry spends $15 billion a year on new equipment. 15 billion B. No one tracks the aftermarket, which is where we operate in. We're the largest in the aftermarket, and no one tracks it. And so as time goes on, people say, well, wait a minute, I need a new mixer. It's 15, 20 grand. I'm an independent operator. I can't afford that. How many sandwiches or other things do I have to sell to be able to pay for that thing? The other thing that's fascinating, is the people leverage the cost of alcohol, right? In any big city, you buy a mixed drink, you buy a beer, craft beer, you buy a glass of wine, you're looking at 15 to 20 bucks. So if you're going out, there's 2 of you and you have 2 drinks apiece, you're almost at $100 for just the alcohol side of things. And that's, you add food to that, you're at $200. That's a lot. That's a lot even for people that can afford it, let alone the people in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So what do the casual dining people do?
Right.
They either trade down to fast casual or quick service, or they eat home. So
yeah. Well, they're not. I can tell you, they're not trading down to quick service. Or if they are trading down to quick service losing so many customers right now.
Right.
That they're not getting any real benefit. That's what's so unusual about what happened last year. And I don't think people quite really appreciate that.
That's the numbers.
Yeah, you've been in this business for 4 decades. Every time there was a recession, who benefits? McDonald's.
Right, the quick service guys.
Burger Kings, Wendy's of the world, they all did poorly. Most of the top 10 restaurant chains, which are fast food chains, did generally poorly.
So where do those people go? They go home? They just stay home and eat?
Yeah, well, they stay home or they go to convenience stores because you mentioned
Right.
prepared food. You got all of these prepared food. You got so many options. If we want to eat
Too
it,
many options, right?
yeah, we have a
We
lot
can go to
of
supermarket, we can go to a C-store, we can go to a restaurant,
cook
or
myself,
eat home.
yeah.
So
Right?
it'll be interesting to see what happens. And the uncertainty, the interesting thing will be what happens to the always constant pressure on expansion of locations. Or is it worth opening another location? What's the payback on anybody in the continuum of from quick service on up to white tablecloth? What's the option?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The other concern I have obviously is with this uncertainty. Is this going to start? At what point does this start freezing activity? And getting people to start pulling back. I don't know if we're there yet, but you start to see some concerning signs. But I want to ask you about tariffs.
Yes.
Because and because my anticipation is that this will be good for you. Yes, because because your point was, like, if I'm gonna buy, because like these costs of so much of this new equipment is gonna essentially go up quite a bit. A lot of it comes from China, does it not?
So we're closing. There's a location which I was going to let you know about in New York City. It was called the Essex Market Line. There's a beautiful, food hall concept that was launched during COVID. Not the best time to launch locations, right? So they closed it and are putting something else in that space, and we're selling it. And the demand amongst people for tariff-free equipment, which I thought was a good way to articulate it, is significant. Because so much of the stainless, aluminum, prepared the brains, the electronics. Somebody was just telling me today, they talk about all these exceptions for computers and everything else, but no one realizes what all the point of sale equipment, all those terminals, all those components are produced in, they're produced in Asia, where it's a tariff situation, right? That's the risk. And I don't think people realize that on an ongoing basis.
Really?
What the challenge will be. Where are you going to produce that elsewhere?
Yeah.
No one in the U.S. has capacity to produce it. And so the aftermarket demand, you talk about all the supply we have, we're supply constrained actually.
Really?
The quicker we turn product within 30 or 60 days on our auction platform, restaurantequipment.bid. People register, they buy either from our warehouse locations, and about half of what we sell is new surplus. People bought long, they changed their plans, they decided not to expand their development, and so we're left with equipment that we help them sell. So, and that's QSR people, casual dining people all across the board.
Really?
I don't think people realize what the pressure is. You write about it, what the pressure is in the QSR space right now. I mean, how do you keep the meal below, $5? Can you? I don't know.
No.
No.
I mean, I think some brands can do it. Well, like the problem is, like the issue is, part of the problem is so many of these brands are franchised in the fast food sector, or is so many of these brands are franchised. And then if you're a franchise, you have off the top, you have to take off the royalties and the ad fund.
Right.
And then the franchisee gets like almost no flexibility in terms of, the only thing they can do is cut the level of service.
Right.
That's the only thing they can really do. I mean, they can find efficiencies and waste. They can do this and that to try to generate a profit. And then they have to focus on, getting sales in the door.
Correct.
But at some point they start saying, I can't do this.
Right.
And then they start cutting the level of service. And if you start pushing too many discounts in this business, which we after the last few years, we had this dramatic increase in prices, and consumers noticed and started cutting back, and that has forced a price war. It puts an enormous amount of pressure on that franchisee.
Yes.
And then to me, the concern that I have, the franchisee starts cutting back.
So that's interesting you say that. There's a QSR operator, franchisee in the upper Midwest, go and name both in brand and who the operator is, who during COVID had 3 people running one of their locations, right? So they had somebody on the drive-through, somebody on the line, and then somebody kind of doing everything else. And he stuck with it post-COVID. 3 people, no seating, no indoor seating, everything drive-through in some of these smaller towns. Couldn't get people, and needed to cut expenses to make the numbers work, especially with the increase in commodities. The other tariff consideration is a lot of the other commodities are linked to, it's not just equipment, right? I mean, we've talked to distributors in the fish business, produce business, they're all importing stuff. One importer, the largest importer of meat and cheese in the US, I said, well, what percentage of your product is related to this? And he said 97%. I mean, it's from some other country, not necessarily subjected to the tariffs, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll happen?
Right.
But you'll be writing a lot about it.
I probably will.
You'll be writing a lot about all of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that, I mean, it's like absent some sort of, part of me has to believe that they're going to have to pull it back, because I don't know. The concern that I have with is like the bond market started to.
Yes.
I mean, you pay attention. Like the bond market, when the bond market has problems, that's going to freeze the credit markets. If it freezes the credit markets, all activity, let me go back to it in '08 situation.
Correct.
And then like you basically have frozen the economy, and then on top of that, you've got a trade war going on, and then you're dramatically increasing prices. And by the way, the Fed can't do anything about it because of the concern about inflation.
Correct.
So the Fed can't come in for the rest.
22, right?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. So to me, I think eventually they're going to have to pull it back, because I don't think the economy will be able to handle it. And it's just it is a difficult situation, and it is something that the industry is I mean, it's coming, it was already here, and it's coming on top of a consumer that's already been pressured by inflation for so long.
It reminds me of somebody was saying the other day, it's kind of like there's 3 or 4 cars coming into a common intersection, no stop sign, no stop light. And so they're all coming in together, and it's the tariffs, it's the cost of labor, it's the cost of commodities, and it's competition, right? So it's all these things coming together, and there's going to be one big honking crash in the middle. The hope is that the question, when you talk about the credit markets, what happens, when somebody does, one of these brands legislates a national rollout that has to change equipment. I mean, there's chains right now changing equipment that are more, call it labor friendly, which means less labor. Mm-hmm. And so that renders other equipment obsolete. And as a result of that, they come into the situation with, what's next. So, it'll be interesting times. There'll be people looking to Jonathan Mays for wit and wisdom.
Sure. Yeah.
Wit and wisdom.
Wisdom. Yeah, maybe.
No, definitely.
Right. So, but now, if I understand correctly, the demand for your business was going up even before it.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
pre-COVID, we had grown significantly as we went from a singular focused company that operated this large aftermarket place to providing services to people that are remodeling or changing their operations, where we'll come in and help manage the disruption of equipment and then bring it out. We also redeploy equipment. There was a lot of demand for that, where practical operators realized, I'm closing one location, I can use that in another, that equipment in another. So we manage that redeployment as well. And then as time goes on, the demand in the aftermarket is just unreal. So our goal is to manage that methodically. When we grew nationally, when we became a national resource with hubs in LA, Dallas, Orlando, and the 1,000-acre former Army base, as you know about, in upstate New York, we can serve people nationally. So,
Wow. All right. So, any other interesting trends that you're seeing in terms of? Actually, let me ask you this question: who's buying?
So there's always been a percentage of people that buy that are wholesalers who bring in equipment, like a car. A used car guy would buy it, clean it up, and then resell it. There's wholesalers around the country, smaller operators who bring it in, clean it up, and redeploy it. But then there are countless independent operators who, bootstrap every day, who grind every day. The Greek diner down the road, the Italian restaurant, the independent operator, they're buying because they see value in it. But more recently, the interesting trend are brands you would recognize buying from us.
Really?
So if you open a restaurant, what's it cost? $200,000 to $1 million in equipment only. And so we had a large country club that's very well known that is doing a $40 million remodel. And the chairman of the board, who was a guy I knew, electrician by training, said, we're going to go out to this warehouse. And he brought the executive chef and the GM, and they came out and started identifying items they could come in to plug to pull away off the new equipment list. Stainless, prep tables, flat tops, smallwares. You know, stainless is going to be here long after we're gone. We did a study with MIT that showed that stainless's afterlife has never been calculated, except for the British Association of Stainless Manufacturers said between 100 and 1,000 years.
Really?
I'm not going to be here in 100 years. You'll probably still be around, given that you're a workout guy, but 100 and 1,000 years. So stainless is going to be here forever. So why not reuse it, keep it out of a landfill, and reduce your cost by 50, 60% versus buying new? So that's the mindset people are into. But it never was. Even big supermarket chains now are calling us and asking us if we have product that they want to. They called for a very prominent chain in the Northeast, asked for last week walk-in boxes, brand new walk-in boxes that we happen to have had from another chain that bought too long, brand new. So it's, people think of us as not only the used side, but we also have new surplus.
Right. You have a lot of new equipment.
Yeah, we do.
Now, is the price of that going to go up because you got so much demand, especially if you look forward to a potential tariff situation?
So our auction platform allows it to be whatever market is. Market is what it is. So we launch everything on the auction platform, restaurantequipment.bid. Every lot starts at $1. And whatever the market is, the market is. Mm-hmm. So we're open, we're an open marketplace, very transparent. So,
Well, that's really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Fantastic. Neal, this was fantastic. I really appreciate you joining me again on the podcast. Always love talking to you, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks, my friend.
Super.
Appreciate it.